Welcome to my lovely IHP community and the 5D Collective, and anyone who's new. We were chit-chatting in our previous episode about a couple of things. So before we move into more of the topic, and in this case, a 5D mystic, empowered inner child adult right here, doesn't waste time with 4D mystic and insecure ego narratives. Why? Because we are embodied in our whole self, sense of self. So we know where our body begins and where it ends. We know where our mind, brain, and embodied inner child begins and ends, okay? So you are a person who knows life's too short to spend it with those people, mystics who don't care about healthy self-soothing and worth. They don't care about self-love or anchoring ventral energy seriously. Okay, so while they choose to use stories, Lucifer, textbooks from yesterday's news, this is the part of where the 5D collective knows how to speak our truth from our heart. It's a heart that isn't afraid, is not afraid to be our true selves. And so we know how to love and who is true. And that's where the 4D collective and 3D, well, like my facade friend, they don't own their sense of self. So they are not embodied in their trueness, which is why they have a bunch of insecure ego narratives between the spiritual ego and bypassers to the science ego bypassers to non-bilaterally stupid left modes. So the story was about the world religions course where my teacher is teaching us about truly repenting. That truly repenting is where the thief or the murderer goes to heaven. The murderer is the one who truly repents, and therefore he changes his ways, not the thief. And in the classroom, a good portion, due to bias and due to their ignorance, I don't know, again, the ones of us who knew about true faith, Holy Spirit, we knew exactly who was going to go to heaven, which is also why those of us who also know about our relationship with God, Akash universe, as 5D mystics, Christian Catholics, some of us, others from other denominations, and we just bring it all in, and spirituality and sciences come together to share. The good news is heaven in your body is what your birthright is. It's called restorative embodiment, self-aware, accountable, regulating people. We move here. That's where we're at. And so at IHP, it's only the ones who will be the choo-choo train that gets to that child's, to save Christmas. And so you are a person who owns your sense of self, or you're getting it. And that is why the earned secure attachment or the secure attachment person is a person who's non-traumatized, because we know self-regulation in the absence of another relationship, so another person. So once you can do this, you are now a self-regulating, self-soothing, self-accountable in a healthy way person. So the 5D mystics don't use their clairs, spiritual gifts, psychic gifts, you call them what you want, to say, I am the only way you can access this enlightened version of you. No. Every one of us has the seed of enlightenment. Its realization is thwarted when self is not owned and whole, which is what the 4D mystics and all the ego narratives are in. Okay, so they can do yoga, they do walk in nature, they do mindfulness, meditation. There's practitioners. They can do anything they want. We're going to notice that they're not vibing in their inner stillness because they don't know how to be anchored in ventral and own that sense of self from the healthy self-regulation, soothing angle when the depths of all those emotions. And so you have a positive, negative, but you don't call them positive or negative emotions. As an empowered feminine, I remember when I got to go through the wow and then the other part. So you get a sunshine, rainbow, all of that sweet nectar, and then you get to have the storm. But it's not a storm, which is why when I was going and reading 4D and insecure ego narratives, I just kept saying, what are you talking about? There's no ego death. There's no dark night of soul. I'm not losing people. None of what you are talking about with the twin flame or twin flames makes any sense. The soulmates, you're just, what is this? So they all sound like flat earthers. Okay. Furthermore, once you get the download on decentralization of the self from Patrick McNamara, you're like, okay. Until that moment, I had one reference, and this is the esoteric lady. I talked about that, which is why for me, when I look to the past, I'm like, okay, I lacked the sciences, the human element knowledge in that episode, that episode, that episode. I only had the stories from the 4D collective, but that's the best I could do at the time because that's all I'm hearing. But I made sure to say we don't have ego death. There's no dark night of the soul. When your heart is going through expansion from down in the abyss to out there, it's not hell in the sense of Lucifer, like there's a way that the inner child adult will experience any of that which is expansion. It doesn't make us feel like this. We won't be, my energy is precious and important and special and it is not free. No, no, I don't give it to who doesn't deserve it. That's not how we do things. That's really, again, egoic, not nice. And God tells you to be humble and He tells you to follow Jesus and to forgive, not to be stingy, Like being stingy sounds more like you don't know what it means to have the Holy Spirit and to be open hearted. And in fact, it sounds more like you need Patrick Tinahan so you can reparent and become seen, soothed, safe, secure, and self regulating in your ventral energy versus what is a little teenager basically who's vindicating yourself with charges all over the place. Like the Zen master doesn't know how to be sad. So when you don't know how to process the emotional charges that come up, it's because you don't know the inner growth mindset or mindfulness or mindset practices. It's also because you choose not to. Anyway, Auntie, I'm in life now. Okay, so this is where so I learned how to give myself value and to know what I'm worth and therefore to know how to use my energy. And then I decided that it's everybody has the energy, the gift of energy. The point though, it's so self-absorbed. And that's why it's going to be clear when somebody says we're anointed, we're special. When somebody goes around talking to you about them being more aware of what tomorrow is going to bring. And they do it though in a way that isn't with the essence of a comforting and soothing and anchored and grounded in empowered individual. So when you meet the empowered feminine, you will find that she knows how to be the nurturer, which is from a ventral energy state. So we don't fall for the narratives, and we do get into a lot of different types of stories. It's just they're not irrefutable facts. So what I mean is, if you stub your toe, right, it's going to take that time for it to go away. So emotions have a 90-second lifespan, but the event that takes place, you're going to go and talk about it, which is why when people look from the outside, they can't tell necessarily the difference. They could tell the difference if they had ears that can hear. So I can tell if I'm talking to an authentic inner child adult or if I'm talking to a facade. Again, you speaking from your heart without being afraid to be yourself, and that's when I'm going to know that I have a person, mystic or not. My facade friend is who I get to use for the part of where when you meet a liar pants on fire, it's going to be consistently a person who is not able to self-regulate, and that's their child parts, okay? And that's why we don't want to waste time with those who don't take seriously getting their inner child adult online, because life's too short. And so when you don't know self-love and you don't know self-soothing and self-worth with healthy ways, I know you're going to seek out the same traumatizing experiences, however it may be, that you lived. And you're going to walk around with these little defense gloves, and I'm going to get to meet nothing more than what I met as a teenager. People who think of each other as envious, jealous, spiteful. They walk around with silly sayings. So I had one of these two people they would say this Italian saying that my friends, when they translate it, I'm like, so what, are they stupid? Why would they hang out with somebody they don't trust? My friend's like, no, that's just a saying, Marie. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. It's not just a saying. And then they had other sayings that nobody will tell you, look in the mirror and tell you that you look more beautiful than them. And it's not just the Italians from the South, Neapolitans specifically, but all Italians have these types of sayings probably. But just so you know where my bicultural comes from, Americans, the same thing. There's plenty of people who walk around with, I got betrayed. Oh, I can't trust anybody. Oh, people are assholes. Oh, Lucifer here. Oh, evil there. And you're like, okay, really? So when you can understand that the 4D mystic alongside insecure ego narratives are, they can be cultured, they can be educated, they can be all that you want them to be. Fancy lady and man in suit, they think they're really rocking and a rolling. Any 7 of 14 charming ain't rocking and a rolling to this person's brain right here. In fact, I can tell when somebody has a charge and then I can tell when I'm talking to the stupid left mode because of the way that they are going to be small in energy, which is why I always again look back and think, now I know everything, and I keep learning from the attachment trauma educators, because certified and certificates and hours, and the smart ones, because they explain things that my body had noticed about other bodies, meaning that they didn't expand as ascension energies came about. The 4D mystics continue to have their empresses and emperors and people who don't leave, relationships where people treat you like shit, again, are completely all over the place. And that's why I think of Terry Real, because at least he's out there saying, hey, here's what fierce love is. And you know what's nice about aliveness is that it's amazing when you have a true man and a true woman and a true they, because they know how to tell in each other's face shit, like for real, but not in a way of being, I'm afraid to lose anyone. As emotional grown-ups, that's because you know how to regulate your nervous system, which means you know how to consistently show up as yourself. There's a very specific way you'll know you embody this, and I won't share too much right now. I wanted to make a short one with this one. I just wanted to help you understand, so that repenting for sin thing from my world religions class, we can equate it to when you meet people who don't own their self and who bullshit their way through life, like my facade friend. Love him to death. He bullshits. I mean, he's low energy because of not claiming one's own parts. So you don't learn to be a person who is consistently using softness with yourself. And some people find the word compassion disgusting. So they could just use self-awareness. They could just use, I can understand myself. The psych education out there is really valuable. The people who don't go to therapy are the ones who just use it around. You're trauma dumping on me, okay? So, let me think if there's any stories. Masculines and distorted feminines, they continue to love their Elsa journey narratives, and they're all over that. So that's number one. What I noticed since 2007, I've been expanding, and while I saw that the stuff that comes up is from their childhood, not because their past lives aren't real, no, because of the way that they use their thoughts and their words. So they will come in thinking that their self-fulfilling prophecies are true, but they're basing it also on ancient textbooks, and then they're just giving. So again, though, those groups of people are all there to be able and support each other, to be Peter Pans and Lost Boys, but you won't be regarding any of it if you're in the 5D collective, because you'll know here, and here, and here. You'll be like, okay, the fact that you think that you are a special group compared to another makes me know you're not true spirituality of anything, because if you knew God, then you would know that everybody is a son, daughter of God. That's it. And you don't cast a stone, and you don't play God. And then you would also know how to notice when your energy is in this spite, envy, whatever it is, and to say, okay, let me process it like a person. What happened in my life that has me having this upset? Okay, so remember, please, we're all whole selves here, the 5D collective. Okay, so I'm talking with people who have the capacity to be self-regulating and therefore non-traumatized. Just so we're clear, because for those who have trauma, whether it's big or small, they first get to go to therapy. They get to take ownership of their sense of self. They get to claim all their child parts and or all their state of selves and all that. And when they're ready, they add mindfulness, meditation, and mindset, because now they're self-empowered. Now they are actively embodying their true self, because there's no pause. Just so you're clear as I continue the story, because that's where secure attached person here, non-traumatized, because I can feel all my emotions and think through them, inner growth mindset, and feel through them because I have introspection and I have a differentiated self. So when I'm building any relationship, I'm building a relational field. And as a person who, besides the clairs and Holy Spirit and all of the spirituality, I also know from the sciences people, it's called somatic empath. So my inner self is whole, differentiated. Yours will be yours. When we come together, we'll have a dynamic. And depending on how long we've known each other, we're going to have this type of thing that we build, okay? So, one, the narratives will not be taking over my specific relationship with you. Soulmate, twin flame. And no, there's no karmics for me. There's one karmic if I had to organize it, but really, I don't like to use that word because it's basically when you get cocky about thinking you know everything, whatever it is that you're judging. So there's a specific situation of girls that I was judging in a very specific way. I'll never, ever, 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 never, 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 never. I said enough times, and lo and behold, when I got that relationship, the immediate download was, "This is for you. Now we're gonna see how you never, ever, ever." And that was the only one because karma is only built when, as Sadhguru presents, you're holding on. It's like, so he gives this example. You wake up, you have to have coffee. You can't do it without it. So I was just very much like, this won't ever happen to me. I would never do this. And that's why the empowered feminine gets immediate downloads. We don't need somebody to interpret, but I have a direct relationship with God and Akash and Source. I'm a channeler, downloader. So again, this is the part I've never had questions, only answers. But also, when I did notice 4D mystics and their narratives, I began to be like, what are you talking about? Ego, death, dark night of soul. Why are you insulting my oversoul? Why are you insulting humanity? Why are you insulting God? Why do you keep talking like you are somehow a big picture in a world that is made of all people who matter? So when you meet the ones who think that they're going to save any person, you notice that they're really just trying to find meaning in a body that doesn't have an owner yet, because you hiding your name and then thinking that everybody else needs you in order for us to again make it out there alive, you forget your place and you forget who God is. This is that inconsistency for a person who comes with Jesus, Holy Spirit, God, and the blind faith. It's like, I don't play that. That's which is why Claire's didn't make it into my head. Anointed. When someone said that, I'm like, we're not anointed. What are you saying? That sounds like our ancestors. No, but I mean, we're special. Well, no, we're all special. What are you talking about? Again, no, but you know, we feel more. Well, yeah, yes, we feel because that's the part where the feminine, or those who are intuitive, perceive, because we have a higher level of awareness of the energetic sphere. But that's not because we are getting it's not more special, and it doesn't mean that we're going to be suffering more than others. And this is the part where I began to notice again who's they, again, all mystics thinking they suffer more than other people. I don't go out because, I'm a sensitive person, I'm intuitive, so I need to stay away from those negative people. Wow. And you're supposed to be a healer, I see. So you don't know how to heal yourself. And then when you learn again from smart therapists why people don't embody fully who they are, you're like, okay, they all need EMDR, child parts work, somatics until they get to embody their whole self, their inner child adult comes alive, and now we got a bilateral, the vertically overall integrated brain. Now you're not going to be feeling like you are overwhelmed because your default mode network is not scanning self and others to prove that you're valuable, or looking to be in the same traumatic experiences that you were born into, because finally you've gotten out of this horrible high risk ship that is you. Okay, so today, luckily, I have more words to explain to you why 4D mystic and insecure ego narratives are not attractive to any of those who are 5D mystic empowered inner child adults or mindfully living and loving 5D collective people. So we don't waste our time on them because our brain immediately is like, no, our gut. Bullshit. You hear truth. So we all hear truth based on our own ego. Your ego will be with you, but you are a ego who's empowered when you say, yes, I have thoughts, I have emotions. This is what happens when an ego is empowered. And I'm going to bring in, for me, God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, but I'm also going to bring in integrity as a woman. And as a person who got rejected at the age of 4, got taught self-love and respect. So I can bring in Determine and Robert Sapolsky. So I could give you, if I wanted you, an analysis of Maria. So I can tell you exactly how I will present me. That's how it works when you know yourself. Okay, so when you have the capacity to know Terry Real, he points out you hold yourself the way you were held. But as Stephen Porges points out, and Gabor Mate, it's not the events that happen outside of you, it's your nervous system. That's going to decide if you have built trauma and or been a big trauma, small trauma or not. And also, though, remember, if I'm contemplating and processing the depths of my emotional plane and I'm able to self regulate because I can self soothe my child parts without them taking over and giving me some narrative that is an inner or outer critic, I'm not going to do the shame, blame, fault, revenge. I'm not going to do, that's your fault. No, I take accountability. So I take responsibility, accountability, I self regulate, and my inner child is uncharged. And so I keep on uncharging because I don't build emotional charges. And I can continue to process and grow up. And when those child parts come up, I know who they are when they are, and da da da. That's how whole self, that's a verb, works when you own your sense of self, which is when that enlightenment is taking place. And here's their 5D Mystic Collective right here. But again, I use the words just to organize it in a way that you can understand. Empowered inner child adult. It can be a pure expanding piece of consciousness. Again, mindful living, loving person. The reality is we all pick up each other. Once you're a person who is, well, I guess it depends. Yeah, I can't talk for everybody. So that's because I'm thinking there are those who come into life and they're going to experience it from a different angle. But technically, we're all nervous systems. So the reality is your level of awareness of picking up on another person can increase over time. In fact, your insula can grow. Dr. Daniel Siegel taught me that one. Like your amygdala will grow if you're using alert, alert. So your neuroplasticity, the agent is imagination. You want to use the bright sides so that you can actively integrate. And so, anyways, which story was I going to tell you? I don't remember anymore. Shit. Well, I don't know what I was going to share. Lost my train of thought. It's okay. But 4D Collective, they continue to have good groups, bad groups. It's uninteresting. And the ones of us who instead don't have groups, we just know that expansion happens because you're able to consistently use, I got my train of thought back, use your left and your right to say, okay, I have this thing happen, I can't change it, and I'm going to process the emotions that arise from it. I'm not going to talk about life is fair or unfair. Maybe I'll say life's unfair, but I'm going to uncharge that charge and not project it and not make it into evil, Lucifer, some story. Okay, so I don't do narrative. I do emotions come up. I do chit chat. And really what I'm going to do is want to have the true people that are empowered like I am to have a fun time with. But the empowered ones, not the facade ones, because they're all just disappointing. Because a facade, like my facade friend showed me, they don't hear what you're saying to them with an open heart. And then like, wow, you're sharing with me your heart and soul. Okay, so this is the part of where when somebody is seeking to truly get to create a relationship with you because they're open-hearted with you, it's because they are open-hearted with who they are. You have to have self-compassion, self-understanding, self-responsibility, accountability, self-respect. You have to be welcoming of all your child parts and all of who you are with the imperfections and flaws to then be able to consistently, and that happens, that's an empowered feminine, and those are empowered masculines. And those are the most of enriching moments, and that's what you want more of. Oh, this is what our healthy adult relationships romantically are for the 5D Collective, because we don't go with anyone who's going to waste our time in half-ass shit situation. The therapists are all out there for those who want to heal. This is one thing, they've been out there for 30 plus years. So the reality is I'm like you're only getting taught this the last 3-4 years because you're doing what I'm doing now and what I've been doing. But the reality is they've been out there for a while. So the more I contemplate and am aware of that, the more I know anybody has the opportunity and has been having it to heal. If they don't want to get healed, there's not anything that any of us have to do. It's not a narrative. It's you make a conscious choice of what you bring to the table every day. So I consciously choose what to bring to the table, which is why anytime I can be upset about something, I'll take accountability, ownership, process it. It's called integrity. It's called also mindfulness, mindset, mindset, the Zen master doesn't know how to do it. He's part of the insecure ego narratives who basically say, you can't all be enlightenment because that doesn't happen. We have laundry. You have laundry, Zen master, because you didn't put into practice what you preach. Or do you preach it? He doesn't know you stress. I know you stress. And it's good stress. That's where it's different than distress. You'll know it when you're here, which is why it's not boring. Which is really sad when you find out that all those people who keep choosing to get themselves into the same traumatizing events that led their childhood, I'm like, wow, if only I found it hard to believe them first years of life. Wow, okay, see you later, alligator. No, crocodile. So yeah, don't waste the time. Again, anybody who doesn't take ventral energy seriously, self-love and healing their inner child, it's a pity. It's not our business. In the meantime, the 4D mystic and insecure ego narratives continue along. We don't. We have a good time together, and then we take healing trauma seriously ourselves so that we can all be walking around non-traumatized, self-regulating. We create our own little relational fields and do a bunch of stuff and hang out all pachas and then walk around the earth. And if they don't want us, we leave them alone. Remember, unhealthy self-worth people don't like positive people. But we have plenty of time to get everybody who wants into a door with a person like Patrick Tiahan. And for the ones of us who are ready to do it together, let's get together. Yeah. We will have a lot of fun. So learn to love. No, we already love. Love, laugh, don't cast stones, expand. And we'll be back with more. Have a good one.